Well, my name's Alvin Fall. I'm a sports artist out of Sarasota, Florida. I've been down here 20 years. I focus mainly on the NFL because that's what I grew up watching. I do paintings of other sports as well. I've kind of developed a style of combining watercolor and colored pencil. And recently, in the last couple of years, I've developed a pretty cool style where I'm using the watercolor to kind of create ghost images in the background of the players that aren't highlighted, and then I try to get really detailed and photorealistic with the main focus of the painting. I'm in the Beckett Sports Art Group. I'm part of Deacon Jones Foundation, so some of my prints have been licensed and sold through them by the NFL. I've done some commissions for some pro and college teams and gotten my work signed by some pro and college players, and just trying to move up the ranks and keep enjoying what I'm doing and have success with it and meet more people and just keep producing more art and coming up with new concepts and growing as an artist. And that's about it in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. Ken?
All right. My name's Karl, and I'm also a sports artist. I'm also in the group with Alvin and Chris on the Beckett Sports Media Group. I have not been in this as long as they have. I've only been doing it for about 18 months, I would say. And they do a lot of big stuff. Their stuff's obviously awesome. Everybody should check them out, obviously. I do bigger stuff, but my niche is really, I stumbled into is one-of-one's trading cards. They're like baseball card sized. So ever since I started doing that, things have exploded for me. Unlike those guys, I don't have a lot of professional connections or nothing, but I just try to stay busy, and I try to get better every day, just like in life. I try to be better at everything I do, and it helps meeting other artists like these guys who are great artists. They got a great reputation, and it's inspiring to see what they do. It helps you compete in a positive way. I'm sure they would agree. I'm not out trying to make my stuff better to steal their clients, if you will. I'm just trying to make my stuff better to keep up with their stuff, and I would like to think they do the same. If not, that's okay too, obviously. Great dudes. It's amazing how social media has connected all of us from across the country. 2 years ago, I didn't know anybody. I followed some of these guys online. I just looked at their stuff. It's as much fun as I am living a dream, getting to do what I get to do every day. It's even cooler knowing that I get to share information with these guys, and we become colleagues and friends. I'm going to say friends. So it's been a great experience for me, and I can't wait to see where it leads the next 5 years, to be honest. So
Cool.
Hey, I'm Chris Brown. I'm going to bring up I guess I'm going to close. I'm going to be a closer tonight. It's not unfamiliar territory. I've done it before, but so I'm Chris Brown. I'm also a sports artist. I'm the official artist of Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. I've done that since 2009. So roughly, I think I'm closing in on 120, 125 portraits for them over that span of time. I'm also, like they said, I'm in the sports art, sports media, Beckett Sports Media team, the sports artist team. Sometime I'll get it out. The sports artist team, and that's something new that they just came up with, and it's a pretty cool thing because they're going to feature us on their website, give us a chance to auction off pieces, I guess sell pieces online, so people can purchase those through them. We'll also still be featured in their magazine each year, which is pretty cool, considering you think back to when you were a kid and how you love to pick up that magazine and check it out.
Right.
I think I've told you before, for me, it's just unbelievable because I always try to get in there as a player. And even though I played a long time, I didn't make it to the majors. So I never made it as a player in the Beckett magazine. So to get there as an artist, it puts things in perspective for me because it makes me realize this can take me in places that baseball never could. So, gosh, what else am I doing? And we need to talk about this. I'm also taking part in the Negro Museum. Okay, we're doing an art show and sale online to promote for the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues. and to help raise money. I believe what they're doing is raising money for a new wing, an educational wing for.
Okay.
They're going to call it the Buck O'Neill
Good.
Educational Center or something like that. So these two guys actually, they definitely should have probably taken part in that.
I would have, man. I didn't know. If I would have known, I would have for sure.
Yeah, and from what
I could not. I was supposed to, Chris, but I had done something for a previous charity, and I just do not have time. I told Tad I felt terrible. I wanted to do something, but I just could not. I couldn't figure out how to get something done.
Well, here's the great news about that is I think the way things are starting to spin, there's going to be opportunities down the road to possibly help out and get involved again. So, and that's on anybody who's involved there. It's really up to you and what you can do. Like me, for example, I couldn't do an original piece because of what I have going on. Mm-hmm. I've got it actually behind me over here. Or in front of me, behind you. I've got a 4 foot by 4 foot commission piece that I'm working on that a patron actually in China is paying for. So nice. I got to get that done. I've got my Hall of Fame stuff coming up and a few other commissions. So it just wasn't, you can't just drop everything and start, people are paying you money and they're paying good money for it. It's not like people can just jump the line, right. So, I have that much respect for the people that want to give me money for my work.
Sure.
So anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm offering up 2 prints. So I'm going to take the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues logo and I'm putting them on my 2 prints. One is Satchel Paige. The other one is gentleman, Dave Malarcher. A lot of people don't know Dave Malarcher, but he went into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. So I had already done that portrait. And the Hall of Fame was gracious enough to say, yeah, let's let him, do that. I mean, I have copyright anyway, but I love working for the Hall of Fame, and so I always run things by them to make sure that I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. So it was work that was done for them, so I want to make sure that they're okay with it, and of course they were. So I'm just going to do like a limited edition 50 run print edition for that. And hopefully quite a few sell so I can send all that money to the Hall of Fame or to the museum because I'm not keeping any of it. So,
yeah.
Well, I had the opportunity to talk to Tad Tuesday, I think it was. And just that's an excitable person. he's a lot of fun.
He does a good job.
Yeah. So
Tad's something else. He's into marketing and there you can tell that's the line of work he should be in.
Yeah. Right. So I think what we'll end up doing and we're going to talk again next week about a few other things. We're going to promote some of what the works are being done through this show as well. And I have a feeling it's going to be an ongoing thing. So I'm sure it's going to roll back around a few more times to you guys if the opportunity presents itself. So I think that'll work out pretty well. Well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions based on what you guys have said, and we'll roll from there. One thing, Ken, that I want to kind of point out is I think it depends on the age, but I think we all were trading card junkies at one point in our lives. As Chris said, he wanted to have his own trading card. I wanted to have my own. Part of one of the things that we do with Ultimate Sports Network is kind of one of the pages we come up with is we create your own trading card and your own stats and all that stuff.
Cool.
But the idea of having that portrait or that print done on a trading card is fantastic because, unfortunately, I just lost a few years ago all of the things that I'd been carrying around for 40 years in a fire. And it was, but it's, well, actually they were my brothers. I stole them from him. So it's not like I lost my own stuff, But he said he gave them to me years later. I'm like, no, I remember just stealing them from him. But anyhow, but it's the idea of those memories in a handheld thing or, that kind of thing. So I think that's pretty cool. And as I'm looking at, Alvin, that Palomalu piece, I think I understand what you're talking about, where it's kind of like ghosting off almost like a frosted mirror kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like this is like obviously the main like focus, and then there's like a ghost image where you can see the logo behind the player, and it's Palomalu returning an interception with a Chargers player trying to tackle him, and then just commemorating his like Hall of Fame, being elected in the Hall of Fame this year. and being such a dynamic player.
You get the detail and the shadowish part, and you still get the hair. So that's pretty cool. So
I think it gives my art a little bit of flavor that it was lacking in the past. I've always been good at this. I was always looking for something to like give my art like some style, something that's like, oh, that's an Alvin Fall piece, or,
yeah, for sure.
Something that's got.
Well, it's something that Chris and I spoke about the last show when he blew me away with one thing that I don't know if he wants me to repeat that or not, but it's the detail that you see that we don't see until you show it to us. It's that this is your imagination, but it's imagination based in reality. And then now that I see, like, oh yeah, well, why doesn't everybody do that? Or why isn't every picture I see like that? Well, because everyone doesn't see it that way or think about it that way. And as I think you guys were talking about, the concept of being an artist is you can all learn the same techniques, but since it's an individual reaction to those techniques, it's all going to come out different. I'm looking at behind Ken, I'm looking at the Larry Bird shot. Everyone's seen Larry Bird shoot a basketball before that's a basketball fan. But you captured it in a little bit of a different way. It's just a little bit different. The form that's Larry Bird form. You go, no one's going to teach anybody that jump shot if he actually gets off the ground. But it's like, hey, that went in. Maybe I should. And it's the emphasis is just perfect. So what I appreciate that you guys do is that you're out there presenting what you do collectively as art, but individually as your art. So Alvin, give me a quick rundown of I don't want to call it the process, but what is the view? Let's look at that. When you decide you want to do a piece, if it's a commission piece or something you come up with, what is it you see? What is the process in your head? Don't get into real detail, but just what's the first thing that pops in your mind?
I really try to think about who the player was, like their character.
Okay.
And I think that's what like leads to all the details, like I want to show the grass stains and the blood stain. I want to try to capture the reflection of the stadium and the helmet. This was obviously a cloudy day, but I want you to like, when you really look closely, you're like, oh man, I used to sit in that seat up there.
Okay.
Like, he's got the, the grass stains, or like, like I always was a sticker for detail, and I played football, and like, I just always thought it was cool when you like, at the end of a game, when your jersey was covered in grass stains and some blood and stuff. And I always just thought it was like cool. And then I just kind of took that detail into my artwork, and then just creating some style. I don't know if you can see it or not, but like, I forget where Palomalo is from, but he's from one of the islands, right? And so I took like the flower print for the Hawaiian print.
Okay.
And like put it out. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's inlaid in the background. Yeah. Just to give it some flavor and like, yeah, I don't know. I think, we're always growing as artists, and so this is kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. And
well, no, that's interesting. At the end of every football game, my body was covered in cleat marks. So that didn't help matters much, but all right, Ken, when you're looking at doing something, say trading card size, I'm sure that's got to be a challenge, because what these guys are doing are expanding. You're contracting. How much more difficult is it to do like what Ken's or what Alvin's saying? I'm sorry, about the attention to detail in a smaller frame.
Well, I offer different styles of cards, but what they're saying is the same. So like in Alvin's picture with Mahomes, that's the famous running play in the Super Bowl, right, Alvin? Where he reaches for the end zone.
I believe so. Honestly, that was just the shot that I really liked.
Okay. But anyway, Frank, what I'm saying is, when I draw cards, they're so small, it's hard to get a lot of detail if they're fuller than a headshot, okay? So it's very important that you capture the athlete's signature move. Like Larry Bird, that jump shot, that's his jump shot. I mean, you wouldn't have, like, you can barely see it in my monitor up there, but it's him just by you wouldn't see his face, it's Larry Bird, right? Right. So when I draw my when I draw my cards, if I'm doing an action shot, I have to take a signature pose or a body shot that everyone's familiar with. That's that guy. You don't have to see his face. You just know it's that guy. And if you really look at close to some of them, you can't even make out their face. Right. I put shadows in them and stuff. Now, that being said, I do a lot of them. Most of my popular ones are the bigger ones of headshots, okay? And those are facials. And you know, when I started, my color palette was pretty small. I only saw certain color palettes, but now I see purples, I see pinks, I see blues. I never saw any of that before, but like anything else, if you do it every day, you start to notice colors and shapes you never noticed before. And, you know, like Alvin said, you know, like I got a Tatis here where he's got his sunglasses, his eye black, his braids. I mean, all that swag, but I mean, that's fun to draw, you know. I mean, that's who they are. That's signature stuff, you know. Like Mike Trout is a hard guy for me to draw because as great of a player is, he's so bland. There's nothing about him that really sticks out that you say that's Mike Trout, you know.
Right. So, quick short swing, it's over the fence. There's no like the Pujols pose there, right? There's nothing like that.
Yes, right. I mean, he's the best player of his generation. There's no question, but he doesn't have anything that stands out, you know. So.
Well, okay, now, Chris, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to take you a little bit off of what we were going on there. We mentioned Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm assuming this is the one you're talking about. We're getting to the point now, and you've been doing this long enough, where we're seeing the kids of the guys that you may have already done portraits of, or at least they're after now. You know, you got the baby Blue Jays with Biggio and Bichette and Guerrero, and, you know, Thaddeus Moss just goes into the NFL. I mean, is there a concept of, okay, now I'm going to put these guys together, or do you see that they move like he moved, and that's kind of looking down the road? I can see, you know, that kind of duality.
Oh, are you asking me, or are you asking Ken?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. So you can definitely see the similarities. I got to actually see one of Rafael Palmeiro's sons play when he was in high school. And when I went to watch him, because I actually scouted that team. And so he comes up to bat, and I watched him take that first swing, and I was like, golly, man, that is literally Rafael swinging that bat. You know, so you could tell. I mean, it may not – I can't tell you whether or not Rafael worked with his kids. I assume he did, you know, but – that goes back to our kids watching every single move that we make, you know, and from the time they were little, they watched that swing, and they watched Dad have all that success. And why wouldn't you want to be like Rafael Palmeiro, you know? So,
and if I'm not mistaken, didn't they end up playing in the same semi-pro team at one point?
Yeah, because Rafael went back. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the whole story behind why, but I assume he was putting off that Hall of Fame ballot just a little bit, but trying to make some people forget some things. But I can't talk too much because I think he lives about 45 minutes from me, so I'm within. I'm within. He still knows
how to swing a bat, right? Well, now you mentioned something that on some of the things that you've posted, we see Maddox in the background or in the foreground.
Yeah,
drawing at the same time you're drawing. So that whole thing is kind of tied together. And I know down in LSU, again, Randy Moss's kid was playing tight end for LSU. That idea of, like I said, I stole my baseball cards from my brother, but he had to have them at first before I could steal them. So me and him and my dad and everybody, we all went together, and at least, you know, it was the concept of it. Then I walked off with them. But that concept of we learn from each other, and we learn from family, and as you're talking about a family of people, it's easy to see where you guys come up with ideas from each other, yet like we were talking about before, you make it different. And that's why I'm looking at there with, you know, the Tatis Jr. and those guys, as I'm watching on TV, going, I remember him playing. I remember his dad playing. So you see different things from that. So, you know, there's a question in there someplace. I'm just not sure what it is just yet. But the idea of drawing from the past to bring out the future, I guess, is the best way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I will tell you this, too, as an artist. And I can remember to the day when I really started to become a serious portrait artist. I started just looking at things differently. I started noticing faces differently. You know, I would say that most people, when they look at somebody else, they just look at their eyes, or they pay attention to their mouth because it happens to be moving. Right. But when somebody first walks up to me, I literally see all the lines and the forms. You know, I see the skin tones, and I see, you know, literally that's what I'm paying attention to, because that's what I care about. You know, that's probably why I'm so bad with names, to be honest with you. They're introducing themselves, and I'm I'm looking at all their features and checking out their facial features, shape of their nose and the way the jawline is and those kind of things. That's the first thing I'm checking out, just because that's, my biggest interest is what it'd be like to draw this person before they even open their mouth. Maybe that makes me weird.
No, because the other two guys are shaking their heads. They're thinking exactly along the same lines. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I'll share a story with you. So when I was a kid, one of my biggest breakthroughs on understanding color and I was doing a complicated paint by number. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there was 24 colors or something. And it blew my mind that I was painting these little shapes of color. And when I stood back, it made an image. And I think something in my mind popped. And I was like, wow, there's a lot more going on in that helmet than just black and yellow. There's the highlights of the stadium lights. And if there's a sunset, there's going to be some orange in there. Maybe there's a reflection of some of the crowd. And, when you're drawing it, it might not look like that when you're looking at it. But when it comes together and you step back, it becomes that image. And as elementary as it was a really big breakthrough for me moving forward, with color and my art. And, I went on to college and did all that.
You say it's elementary, but as a teacher, as an actual high school art teacher, I literally beat my head against the wall all the time, because kids, I don't know, I'm starting to really think that some just can't see it that way.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you'll explain everything in detail. I mean, to the smallest detail, how to do something, and either they don't care enough to really spend the time to do it, or they just literally just can't see it that way.
It's kind of like great athletes don't always make great coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, not that you don't make a great teacher. I'm just saying, there's been a lot of string of great athletes that it was easy for them. They're like, this is how you do it. This is when you make your cut, and you got to sell the fake, and then you got to make the catch and not be worried about getting hit.
And I do that automatically, so why don't you know? Yeah. Well, and Ken, you mentioned something about seeing colors that you didn't see before. It's not like they weren't always there.
Correct. Yeah, they've always been there.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't see them. And like these guys say, look, as the better you get at your craft, the more you want to get show off, if you will. Like Alvin putting the reflections in the helmet. That's what makes our art the best, is the highlights, the extra step, all those little details. Like Chris said, noticing a line in a person's face, it's a difference maker, And when you first start doing this, I'm sure they can tell you the same thing. You think your stuff's pretty good, and then you look back 5 years ago, and you're like, good Lord, that's not near as good as I thought it was.
Right.
And again, you just notice more stuff, and then you see other people do stuff, and you're like, man, I could do that. I gotta try that. I gotta add that, or I gotta do this. And that's the back where being a collective group, it helps, because you can stuff I wouldn't have tried. Like on my cards, I love to draw sunglasses. So like an Alvin's helmet, I'll put the crowd in their sunglasses. I wouldn't even have tried that 2 years ago. I would have looked at that and said, that's a no, So I'm sure they're the same way. The more you do that stuff, the better you get at it, and the more you want to add more to that stuff,
Right. And as you guys are, you're talking about the disbelief in, well, why doesn't anyone else see that? I'm one of those people that doesn't see it. I see it when you do it, but I have no idea. And Chris and I have talked about this a few times now. It's like, I can look at a corner of a wall and all I see is the wall coming together. How do I make that line and that angle? No clue, no idea, because I don't see it that way. And I have been trained to see it that way. But you guys have a gift that, and you've worked at it as well. You have a gift that most people don't have, because as Chris said, I look at somebody's face as I'm walking up to them and I see that cube's there, that works there, that line's there. I listen to people, so I hear inflection.
Yeah,
that's what I do. I hear patterns of speech, but that's what I do. But what you do, I think, is even more impressive, because not only do you have to see it, then you have to replicate it. And that's, to me, just insane.
Well, I want to say this, Frank. I don't know if it's more impressive, but it's different. That's for sure.
Okay,
so,
well.
I mean, like Chris, I was talking to him the other day on the phone. At one time, he's still in mid-90s. Not everybody can do that. And I don't care how many times I go to my backyard and work on my mechanics and all that. It's just not going to get there. It's just not,
right.
But again, like I always tell people, everybody's got their own skills. Everybody's got their specialties. And That's what makes the world great. If you notice what you do well and do the best you can at what you do well.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. That's a very good point.
When I meet people, they're like, "Oh my God, I could never draw that." I'm like, I didn't start out drawing like
Right.
that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't, you know.
Somebody throw some paints in my crib. I'm going to do this. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we talked about this as far as coaching as well. You know, we have a tendency, and I do too. I have a friend who started playing guitar when we were in college, and he was, I mean, just awful. That's being kind. It was like, let's put that thing down. You can't. There's no way you'll ever be able to do this. Fast forward another 20 years, and he's playing in a band on stage, and you don't know how to play that thing. Well, I didn't know how to play it then. I know how to play it now. Yeah. So, and we have a tendency to think that we're a finished product in everything we do. And especially the younger people, when, like you're talking about teaching and coaching, you have to get them to understand you ain't done yet. You know, you're going to keep progressing and getting better if you just keep yourself in the mode of, I want to do that. Again, we were talking off the air about some of the Olympians that I've spoken to that weren't Olympic level athletes when they were young, or even when they were young adults. And then they found the right groove and ended up becoming world record holders. And like you said, you guys are doing wonderful things. Now, again, I still will never be able to do what you do, but I understand what you're saying, that it's an acquired skill. But Alvin, you look like you're ready to say something. How do you get yourself in that mode to acquire the skill?
I'm sorry. I just hold that question. I just have one other thought of
sure.
One other breakthrough that I had was working through a piece. Like sometimes when you're in the middle of a piece, you're like, oh man, this is terrible. And there's value in working through it. And it might not be the best piece you've ever done, but sometimes there's value in just like working through that piece. And like I said, it might not be the best, or sometimes at the end, you don't even see the mistake. But when you're in the middle of it and like, you know, you make a mistake or something, you're just like, oh man, I'm like, it's garbage. And like, somewhere along the way, I learned to just continue to work through it and do a completed piece. I don't know if that was answering your question. That was
no, actually, that answers more than a question I was asking, to tell you the truth, because that was coming up to the next thing. How do you make your vision, or when you have a vision, how do you ensure that you get to that vision, or even more importantly, that you don't always have to have that vision as the finished product? Because Chris, we've talked about that. It's okay, this is what I intended to do, but as I went about it, it came out to be this, which might have been better.
Yeah, for me, I mean, in that occasion, I always think about, there was a piece I was working on at school, and you know, for my backgrounds especially, it's kind of time sensitive. You know, what I do, I can only let the paint dry a certain amount of time before I move on to the next step. And so I got to that point where I was like, all right, I got the paint on. I'm ready. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. And then we had a fire drill. And so I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And so I started just kind of going at it frantically real quick, and got to a point where I could run outside. And of course, obviously that threw me in a whole different direction than what I intended. But when I came back in, which was only about 10 minutes later, it actually ended up better than what I had imagined anyway. So yeah, it just sometimes it happens. I mean, you can have an idea in your head, this is kind of where I want to go, but again, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but if I can get to a point to where, you know, as I'm working on it, more so backgrounds really for me, because I know I can control the pencil a lot more than I can control the paint. That's just me. Okay. So when I'm doing the paint in the background, it's kind of one of those things where I just want to get to where, you know, as I'm working it, I'm kind of checking it out as I go. And it gets to a point where I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know? And so I can probably name one time where I literally just came out exactly in the background like I had in my head, you know, and I don't know if I was actually happy with that. So, yeah. You know, for the background for me, I just kind of keep going. And when I get to a point where I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's cool. I'm happy with that. It's not the main focus anyway, but I want the background to be cool. And so then I can then I can go to the pencil, and that's, you know, that's just, honestly, that's just where I excel. And so, you know, I'm 100% confident that I'm gonna get to a point to, if this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna work towards. So,
Well, Ken, I have a question. I wrote a book a long time ago, and I can write. I can do that whenever. And when the thought hits me, I start typing. But when I decided I was actually going to do it, I had to actually be what I call be creative on purpose.
Yeah, had to force it.
Yeah. Now
that's very difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you deal with that?
Well, it's a struggle. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, one of the advantages. Let me start with the advantages of drawing cards every day is I can go through them quickly, and these guys will attest to it. I post a lot of stuff. It's because my stuff is so small. You know, I can burn through a lot of stuff.
But it's got so much detail, man. I couldn't believe you were drawing that small when I found. I thought you were doing bigger cards that were shrunk down. It's awesome, man.
I don't know how
this head's huge.
Yeah. well, thank you. And again, it's just with practice. You guys know that. If you did it, you would be the same. But anyway, I get to do a lot of different stuff. So I like the big ones, but one of the problems with the big ones for me is you hit lulls, and then you get to a point, and these guys I'm sure know what I'm talking about, where you're like, man, I'm never going to get done. And I'm in the first part's fun because you're anticipating. The ramping up is fun because you're almost done. You can't wait to see it finished. But the dog days in between are tough. But back to your question, Frank, I got to do this every day. I got to produce so many cards every week.
Right.
And my wife and I have this conversation almost every night when I walk a dog. God bless her for having to listen to it. It is a struggle some days to be creative, like you said, writing a book. It's tough. I got to find a way. And I get distracted. I mean, I swear I got art ADD. I mean, if I'll be sitting here, my phone blinks, I look at it. If I hear my dog whine, I run upstairs. It's not because I'm interested. I just want to not do what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Right.
I have an excuse not to be productive, you know. So your question's very good. What I try to do, I make a joke. I chain myself to my drawing table the best I can. And these guys will know what I'm talking about. For me, anyway, at least I think, if I can sit here for about a half hour, 40 minutes, force myself to get started, I eventually find it. You know, I eventually find a groove, and then I can grind, and then I hit the sweet spot where I can get a lot done. And I'm sure, Frank, when you're writing, if you could just get started, I always tell my wife, I can just get started, I'm good. It's just the stopping and starting is rough. That's rough.
And that's what it ended up being. It's like, okay, at 6 o'clock every day, I'm doing this.
Yes.
And I'm just even if I have one word on a page at 7 o'clock, I did something.
Yes,
and
correct.
Once you get used to doing that, it starts to flow. And you mentioned something I think is very important. And Chris I know you can attest to this as being a high level athlete. It's the grind. The grind is what you learn to enjoy. And even though it's creative, you have to learn to enjoy the grind. And this is what I've talked to a lot of athletes about, is that it's great to be in the event. That's fantastic. But in order to get to the event or to get to the final piece or whatever, you have to go through the grind. You have to enjoy the grind. You have to enjoy getting the medium out and doing this and putting things together and cleaning everything up and making sure all the brushes are clean up. You have to start getting used to that routine. If you don't have a routine, you're done.
Well, Frank, if I can interject for just a second.
Sure.
One of the things that I've struggled with is, like you said, the grind, right? And some days I used to wake up and I think to myself, oh man, I'm behind. I'm always behind, but I'm behind. I got to get this many cards done. I got to do all this, right? And then it became a burden for me. I'm like, man, my whole life I've dreamed of this moment of doing what I get to do, right? But I made it a burden. I'm like, oh man, now it's a job. And then so about 2 or 3 months ago, I met another artist, a guy named Blake Jamison. What a wonderful dude he is, by the way. What a great mentor he's been to me. But that's another story for another day. Anyway, one of the things I learned is, man, I'm living a dream. Why am I dreading going down to my studio and drawing? I should embrace this. I've begged for this opportunity my whole life, right? Now I have it. So some days I feel sorry for myself as part of being a human being, I think. But usually I tell myself, man, I can remember when I was 15 years old dreaming of doing this, you know, and I'm doing it. You know, how can I be disappointed or frustrated, man? Life can't be any better than this for me, you know? So
Right.
Yeah, you have to, and I learned this just because I guess I was fortunate enough to play baseball a long time. You know, I retired at 29. So for most people, that's really old for for baseball. But I got to where I enjoyed the practice. I enjoyed,
Right.
every part of practice. And then when I coached for so long, I enjoyed the practices a heck of a lot more as a coach, for sure,
Right.
than the games.
Yeah.
I know a lot of coaches, they just want to get to the game, and they play the game. Well, I actually wanted to get to practice. I enjoyed the
Right.
practice. And so art-wise, I guess, I don't know, maybe in the last couple of years, I just enjoy the process. I enjoy from start to finish. It wasn't always that way. I didn't, but I think, and maybe because I teach, and I try to tell people, don't worry about the finished product. If you're always worried about the finish line, you're not going to enjoy the race,
Right.
So, I enjoy literally every single level, even though, I have patrons that, hey, can I see your process, or can I see where you're at right now? I have some stages where I'm like, no, I don't want to show you. I don't want to show you that. You're going to ask for a refund at this point.
Yeah. Right.
So it's got. Maybe I work a little bit different than some people will work on one area until it's literally done. So like Palomo there in the background, Troy. Maybe I don't know how Alvin works, but maybe you start on that helmet and you work on that helmet until that helmet's done before you move on. And I just don't work that way. I bounce around literally the whole time, so if I got darks to put in, I'm putting darks in everywhere, and so my process, there's literally a stage to where, the portraits themselves, the figures themselves look like zombies. So I don't want anybody to see that,
Yeah.
so I'm certainly not going to show that off, but I just really have learned to enjoy what I'm doing at that time. You know what I'm saying? I think that makes it even more fun. And of course, it's a lot harder to let go of them, but it's a lot more fun when you do get it done, and a little more satisfying, because it's a big part of your life. I mean, let's be honest with you, especially if you're working, all the time, or you're working big. Ken, you work all the time.
Yeah,
So,
I do.
and because Alvin and I work bigger, we spend a lot of time on each piece.
Yes,
So,
you do.
that's a big chunk of your life, and so you want to be able to look back and say, I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed the whole process. You don't want to look back and say, well, I'm happy with how it turned out. Enjoy your life, enjoy the process. And like you said, what you get to do at that time.
That was a big lesson for me, is like, because I'll stress out. I'm like, man, I need to be posting on social media. I need to be going after commissions.
Well,
I need to
Alvin, I'm going to ask
galleries. What's that? Oh, anyways.
Cutting out.
Am I cutting out?
No, Frank was for me.
Oh, Frank cut out. But anyhow, like, I kind of did the same thing. I'm like, man, I need to enjoy the process, And like,
there we go. Kind of.
One of the things I started doing for myself, and I'm not saying that's for anybody else, but I started listening to audiobooks while I'm painting, because like if I listen, I was trying to like watch sports and stuff, and I catch myself looking up, and I started like, I know. So I started listening to audiobooks, and there's a lot of books out there I haven't read, and I don't have to look up, and I can get into a groove. But
Yeah.
but the same thing, it's a grind, and like, but I don't ever want to not enjoy it, like, and I'll eat myself alive thinking about all the things I could be doing or should be doing. And it's like, you know what, man, it's important to go out and kayak or get out on a sailboat or go for a walk or go out on a date with your wife, Otherwise it's like, you can't just be grinding all the time.
Right. Okay. Gotta have balance.
Well, I'm going to ask you a quick question, Alvin, because when you're talking about the detail in the helmet and what is resonating off of that and all of that, you have to have a certain, not just a vision, a passion to say, I'm going to look deep inside this.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the overriding thing, I think, is that passion of, I enjoy doing this and I'm having fun, but you're looking at things that are, I just don't know, again, how you see that. What makes you look at it and go, okay, this should be a quarter turn here. How does that flow?
I've always been into the detail. I'm lucky enough that I live 45 minutes south of St. Petersburg, Florida, and that's where the second largest Salvador Dali museum is in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been to his gallery a couple of times, and you go look at his art and you see the detail inside of the detail in person, and I'm like, it just made me realize, like, I can do a whole, like, I wish I had I have a Todd Gurley painting, and there's like literally the stadium reflection. If you look at the helmet, you can see the yard markers, you can see the crowd, you can see the lights, you can see the,
Wow.
And it took me 2 days to put that detail into that helmet, but it makes it a painting within a painting almost, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think going there and seeing his work, seeing like the cool like concepts that he put inside the painting, and it's like you keep seeing and more stuff, you know. Not that I could ever paint like Dolly or have that kind of imagination, but it motivated me to like add more detail and depth to the paintings. So
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Now, as
and you
we're,
don't
as
get
we're wrapping
to,
up here,
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback off that. I mean, you don't get to see the detail in textbooks, you know, or Dali.
yeah,
I've never got to see a Dali in person, so I mean, I was already in awe. I'm sure if I saw it, but I had a similar thing where I saw Peter Paul Rubens for the first time. You know, you see him in the textbooks and you see the lions and those kind of things, and you're like, yeah, it's a cool concept, but whatever. But then you see him.
It's in a book, right? Yeah.
Large scale, you know, you see him and you see the detail that he put in the fur and the claws and in the eyes, and it just takes your whole perspective. It makes it change a little bit, but same kind of thing, you know. For me, that just like blew me away.
And like at the
Like,
Dolly Museum, some of them are like, oops, sorry, dude, I didn't mean to. Like some of the paintings are huge, and some of the paintings are small, and they all have that same amount of detail and imagination and creativity, you know. And like, if it's a sketch or a huge painting, it's just it's cool.
Right.
And like I just kind of attribute that to like playing football, you know. Like I always loved like every part of it, you know, like putting on your shoulder pads, having your teammate pull your shoulder jersey over, snapping on the chin strap, and what kind of a face mask am I going to wear this year, and like stuff like that. And like I think it all just kind of incorporates into one thing, and then like the passion for art, and then, you know, being able to do this and like be in Beckett magazine from my sports artwork and stuff just drives it. So that's yeah.
Yeah,
and that brings us to where I was getting ready to go, is the Beckett Sports Medium. That how did that come together, and how do we move forward with that?
Who wants this one?
Well, I'll take it.
No one can hear each other.
I mean, so a couple years ago, Beckett contacted us and individually. Like I knew of you guys, but I don't think I knew you guys. I didn't have contact with you. But Beckett Magazine decided they were going to put out a sports art publication. So it was still a card magazine where you could look up prices, but they were doing commemorating sports artists. And so we were all fortunate enough to be in it, and it was very successful. So they did it again. And then I'm not sure how they came up with the idea of the Beckett sports art team, but they basically reached out to us and said that they're going to start promoting sports artists in their magazine, and they're also going to team up with Pristine Auctions and start auctioning off our original work, which to me is like a win for everybody, because you know, it gives me an avenue to sell my work. It gives me promotion. I love Beckett magazine. So that was my experience of it in a nutshell.
I think, I'm sorry, Chris. I think, Frank, I'm in the baseball card community. I'm just kind of joined it, and baseball cards are exploding in the country right now. I mean, they're out of control. The prices that are going, which is great. I shouldn't say out of control. That's bad for me.
Right.
That's great how popular they are. And I think that people are seeing it as private investments now, you know, that are so now, like there's I hate to bring this up, but there's a a bunch of sports cards created by artists this year called Project 2020 Tops released. And when it started, it wasn't perceived real well by sports fans because the art was so different than what they were used to seeing on sports art, you know.
Right.
Anyway, as it built up, people started to love it, and now they branched off. Hey, I gotta go see this other guy's art, and like you, Frank, we need to see more art. We need to see more sports art. We need to see more of this, you know. And I think like these guys said, we were in the artist spotlight. I don't know about them, but I had a hard time getting a copy, and they sold out. They didn't have any idea that it'd be as popular as it was. So I think that they're like any business. I think you look around and say, man, how can I capitalize on the trends that are going on, right? Sports art and baseball cards is exploding. We did a sports art issue; it exploded. You know, maybe we need to figure out a way to, get a piece of the pie ourselves. That's what I think anyway. I don't know what you guys think, but that's what I think, and that's good for all of us. You know, I mean, obviously it's good for all of us. I used to think. One of my concerns used to be is I didn't want anyone else to know who I was selling and what I was doing. I thought it would be hurtful if I did, if people found out my stuff, my secrets and who I was selling to. But again, another artist I've talked to so many gave me some great advice. He's like, look, it doesn't hurt me to promote your stuff, Ken, because the people that like my stuff are still going to like my stuff. That's not going to change,
Right.
Maybe they like your stuff too, and maybe your people like my stuff, and and it just helps us all. And I think once I started looking at it that way, I don't have any professional jealousies that are, I got to keep, like Chris was alluding to. By some artists, they act like it's they're doing something special. Look, we should all be in this together. If we can help each other, why wouldn't we? That's the best way to do things. So that's just me. But
no, it's cool too because it's really a small niche. There's not a lot of with social media. I'm realizing there's more sports artists out there than I realized there were. Mm-hmm. But still, overall, I mean, most people that go to art school aren't painting sports. And I think it's a combination of the love for sports and a love for art, and it's a cool community to be part of. And like for me, really, the last 4 years, I've really gotten into the community. I was just kind of doing it on my own, doing it here locally and stuff like that. And I think it's just exciting. It's exciting to see where it's going to go. And
well, I mean, look at all the people we've met just in the last 8 months. I've met you. I've met Chris, Edgar.
Exactly.
I could go on and on. I don't want to name people because I'll forget somebody, and then I might offend somebody I care about. But I mean, like Chris, Frank, I don't know if you know, he started a Facebook group for us artists. We can talk about techniques like one of the things he put on there. Anybody have a better way of shipping stuff? These large pieces, it's costly to ship them. Anyone have a better way to do that?
Right.
Just stuff like that. And these guys are all colored pencil artists like me. I thought I was the only one in the world doing this. Now I realize that most people are doing it apparently. But it's good to talk to people because actually I got a couple of questions for you guys off the air. I'm going to hit you up with in a few weeks when things slow for me. I got some colored pencil issues I want to see if you guys can help me with. But anyway, it's great that I can reach out and talk to somebody now, that understands and can help me, So
yeah, and that was the whole concept behind that, and like you everything that you said, that was the whole reason for the group, get together and be able to talk about it. And it's a private group for a reason. We're all in another one that's not private, but that's a whole different kind of thing, and that's meant for everybody to be able to see what we're doing. And so whereas is my group is not, it's it's literally, it's meant to be kind of an inner circle kind of conversation where we can put stuff out there without having to worry about anybody else really seeing what we're talking about. Not that we have secrets, but we have secrets.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
But it's really cool, and I enjoy just being able to hear what other people are doing and how they're dealing with stuff. We're all dealing with the same things. That's the thing about it. And I started using a different printer. I was using printers way out in California, and I was having to get like 30 prints at a time. And then somebody tells me about somebody in Wisconsin that I could order one print at a time. They ship it to where I want it to be shipped, and I was like, golly, that's what I've been looking for years. And then I I ordered some just to see what it was going to be like, and they do a great job. You know, talk to the people. They're super. I'm getting attacked by mosquitoes, but I feel like King Kong with airplanes, you know. But yeah, so that group's already paying off, I think, for everybody, because I think the same questions that I have for people, other people are kind of wondering, and so hopefully people start to realize it's okay to ask questions. You're not going to look bad, you know. Like, I didn't care if I looked bad because I needed to know who's shipping something a different way,
Right.
you know. Whatever. I need to know the answer. I don't care if I look bad. I need to know the answers. So,
and it's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know, if that is providing that service and like more people start using them, then it's like, I don't know. I just, you know, it seems like a win for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as I've said through what we do here, it's the community makes things work. And when you get to the point, my famous or favorite motto is, you get to talk about sports. Shut up, have fun, you know, and be able to enjoy that with everybody else, not only with your audience, but with yourself, you know. So it's kind of the same thing. You guys you're doing something you love doing, and it's nice that you have this community of people that can help each other make it even better and more fun and more lucrative as well.
Yep, for sure.
Well, gentlemen, because on my end,
I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure even if we weren't like successful, we'd still all be doing this just because we love it, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the key. It might be a little bit harder to do, but that's the key.
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
I tell you what. Here's what we're gonna do, because we were looking at doing this for about an hour, which I think we've accomplished great, and we're having some connection issues, at least on my end. Here's my proposal to you. Either collectively again or individually, which I'm open to both. Let's revisit this a little bit later, and we can move on from there. Make sure that we get the information, and I'll make sure when we cut this up that people can know where to find you. You know, all the good Twitter feeds and all that stuff. We'll put all that together in the links and everything. But guys, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you talking about what you're passionate about and opening up people's eyes, hopefully, to a little bit more and to bigger and better things.
I'll sign off first, Frank. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Chris, thanks for thinking of me. Alvin, keep knocking out the great stuff. I got a couple questions for you guys. I'll hit you up in a couple weeks though. When it slows down for me a little bit. And Frank, I'll email you. I got your email address. I'll email you all my social media stuff for you. Make it easy for you. And again, thank you guys for having me on. Having me on the show, Frank, and thanks you guys for being such great artists and such great role models for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
all right. Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you, gentlemen.